Morning, everybody. Welcome to Insouciant. This is a red tea from Yunnan Province. We're in the red tea zone these last couple weeks. So last week we did erudition. This week Insouciant. Next week autumn colors. So the key thing to remember with any red tea, there are a couple items to think about. A, is it a blend? Well, in here, you don't have to think about that because we don't do blends. But out in the greater world, the greater tea drinking world, so many of the red teas are blends. And therefore, it's really hard to get precise information about those type of teas. Here, though, when you have a red tea, so for example, erudition was from Yunnan County, so that's in Anhui Province. Insouciant is from Yunnan Province. Where in Yunnan? It's in a place called Fengqing. Fengqing in the red tea world is famous overall. It's famous because in 1938, when an individual from Anhui was looking to get away as far away from Anhui as possible, because actually he left in 1937, because in that year, the Japanese crossed a bridge, entered Beijing, and it was clear that they were going to move further south. And so the result was, in the tea industry, they basically made a decision. Okay, let's get out of this impending disaster. Let's get as far away as possible. Let's get someplace where tea is grown, and let's see if we can't keep creating tea for the world and also creating a valuable economic asset for ourselves. So this guy went as far south as he could. Yunnan is as far south as you can go. And in exploring Yunnan, had heard about Fengqing. And this was in 1937. So what was Fengqing famous for at that time? It was famous for ancient tea trees. Ancient tea trees, there are a lot of them in Fengqing. And in that whole part of China, there are a lot of ancient tea trees. So how old are these things in Fengqing? Well, the oldest one that we've been to is 3,500 years old. So, and when you look at that tree, it looks like a gigantic oak. So unlike the 2,700-year-old tree in Ilau Mountains, which is considerably taller and leggier, this one has more of a bushier, squat type of appearance. And people who lived in this area who have talked about how at that time, for those who were alive at that time, this area was full of ancient trees. Subsequently, some of those got cut down, some got cleared away. That 3,500-year-old one is still there. And in general, Fengqing has very, very rich tea resources. So last week we talked about Gongfu red tea. Gongfu red tea meaning highly crafted red tea. So in Yunnan, very funnily, they also use this term Gongfu. And they mean something crafted, but usually what they're talking about is crafted ancient tea. So that's why there's so much confusion with this term, because it means different things in different regions. So they call what you're going to have today, Insouciant, a crafted tea. And that's because it comes from ancient stock. And one of the things that you'll notice when we open it up and you look at the leaves. Huge old leaves. The leaves in Fengqing County, it's actually not Fengqing County, Fengqing Township, in that whole area tend to be very large. And so the buds tend to be very large. This area is only picked once a year, only picked during the springtime. It's not that it's not possible to pick later in the year. They just don't do it because they feel, well, first off, the economics are very good with the single pick because ancient tree now has become very expensive. And as soon as you put that gung fu after it, oh my gosh, crafted, that means more money. It actually does mean more work. So therefore more money makes sense. Crafted. Let's look deeper into that for a second. Last week, we went through erudition, 15 steps. Is insouciant 15 steps? No, it's not. It's about 6 or 7 or 8 steps. So crafted it is, but not to the level that the erudition is. And remembering, so let's draw a line for ourselves. Remembering that erudition really use the technical skills of people from Fujian. So the origin of crafted really is Fujian province. Migrated north, and then World War II migrates south. Except by the time it gets south, because remember, when it went north, it lost a little bit in translation, but not much. In other words, what I mean by that is still many, many steps. Let's think about historically this period again, 1937. Everybody busy defending the country, busy defending the land, busy trying to stay out of the way of a civil war, just busy trying to avoid troubles, right? Therefore, as the craftspeople from Anhui went to Yunnan, they didn't have a lot of time to sit around. Oh, we're going to create all these steps and we're going to go through all these sievings. We're going to get all these tools. We're going to replicate 100% what we're doing in Anhui. Oh, no, that's not at all what their thinking was. Their thinking and their marching orders were, let's get me some tea this year. Japanese are preparing to come into our area. We probably won't have a harvest, our area being Anhui Province. We want a harvest this year. So when they got to Fengqing, trees were fully ready to be harvested. So right away, they took the basic techniques, still hand-picked, still hand-withered, hand-rolled, piled, and then baked. They took that basic structure and said, okay, we're going to produce crop. And they did. That first year, they not only produced crop, but through using parts of the old tea horse road, they got the tea into Canton Province. And from Canton Province, were able to actually export to Europe. The Europeans like this stuff. Europeans love this stuff. Oh, this is a little different. Oh my gosh, flavor-wise, this is different. Oh, this looks different. Now, let's think about Europe at this time. Were they busy? Well, they were getting ready to be busy. And therefore, you had a couple years of crop get to Europe and take hold so forth in terms of popularity. And then Europe got busy. And once Europe got busy, this meant that getting tea to Europe was well nigh impossible, but at least the technique had been started. Success in terms of flavor profile was there. Farmers were energized. That part of China was still relatively unbusy. Therefore, you could actually do farming and you could actually grow the craft. So that's how Feng Qing enters the picture. And that's why when you think about last week, oh yeah, all these steps, really, really highly crafted. Hey, this isn't crafted that much. It's crafted, but it's not crafted that much. This is context for you. After China became reestablished again in 1949, there was no attempt to unify the artistry of doing tea, the craft of doing tea. In fact, it was really, let's just hold on right now. Let's make sure every area is producing tea. We'll help improve the infrastructure and get it to market. This is the government promise. You guys keep producing. Do a good job, by the way. So that was kind of the marching orders right away. And so that's why this style of making tea from then, actually I should say from 1937 to today, basically remain untouched. So what differentiates farmers in Yunnan? Well, there is one thing among the farmers that's really, really obvious to us. And Yunnan's an interesting place to talk about, especially Feng Qing, because lots of opportunities exist for entrepreneurs. And so entrepreneurs who are doing farming, were they open to experimenting with things? Surprisingly, the answer is no. Because they were using farming as a base to further entrepreneurial projects. What sort of entrepreneurial projects? We went to one farm where the farmer was involved in an entrepreneurial project to control watershed. And so when we asked the farmer, hey, can you make some adjustments? He didn't say, are you kidding? But the words he did say indicated there's not a prayer that that'll happen at all. I have the way I do it. It's just going to be this way. I am an official. I like my life. And this is just how I'm going to do it. Did we buy from that farmer? No. It was great to go to his factory. It was interesting to go to his factory. It was really interesting to talk to him because philosophically, he told us from his perspective where his heart was. And his heart wasn't in developing further craft in Yunnan tea. It was continue doing what I'm doing, but I'm not going to make any changes. And that's that, because I'm too busy. I'm doing other things. So you have that type of farmer. And by the way, this is a prototypical look of type of farmers you have all over China, because some farmers want to learn more craft. There's a young chap in Yunnan Province, does a type of oolong tea. And this farmer, probably 28, 29, oh, he's older now, probably in his early 30s now. He traveled everywhere trying to learn from old masters. So he had little experiments in his fields. Really interesting, because if we had asked him, can you do this thing or that thing? The answer would have been yes, because he wanted to get better. He wanted to produce something unique. He was outward looking at the market. And the market, interestingness to the market, responsiveness to the market was in this farmer's mind. You have other farmers who would like to be responsive to the market, but they're too busy already. Remembering, in China, unlike India, what do you have in India? You go to a plantation, and as far as you can see, monoclonal planting. That's it. Fields way the heck too large to do hand picking. And everything is united. It's in one place. In China, are the farms typically in one place? Are they contiguous? I guess would be a better question. And by contiguous, I mean by varietal. And the answer is no. So a farmer has an eighth here, an eighth of an acre there, another mountain over there. Yeah, they have all this land, but it's not contiguous. It's small. It can never really be easily machine picked. And why would you want to do that anyway as a craft farmer? It's all about getting the workers to the farm, defining what the farm is, and then getting the harvest in. These years, in some locations, harder and harder. Is it harder and harder in Yunnan, especially in places like Fengcheng or Ailau Mountains or close to the border of Burma? Are these places getting harder and harder? They are gradually, but not like some other places in China where it's becoming dramatically harder because no pickers. Pickers don't want that type of a life. Countryside is shrinking. In the minority regions or indigenous peoples regions, that leaving of the farm is going slow, more slowly. So the result is these issues, yeah, they're beginning to unfurl, but not at the rate that they're unfurling in other parts in China. So that's why you still have some adherence to some of the old traditional ways of doing things. And when you're doing an ancient forest, I ask you this. In our lifetimes, will we ever see machine picking of ancient forests? And I will tell you authoritatively, because I looked into the future. I've taken that genie's book and looked into the future. The answer is no. It's too hard to machine pick in the forest because the trees aren't together. You have to climb trees. And again, they're only picking once a year. So to make an investment in that type of infrastructure, not going to happen. And hence why ancient tea trees produce tea that's relatively expensive, because the whole process continues to be driven through hand picking, hand processing. You know, there's always some parts of the process that one will be able to speed up or, you know, get more infrastructure in place so it becomes cheaper, but not the picking. The picking is the picking, and it's not going to very easily be changed. So that's what we're talking about with insouciant. And that's also what we're talking about in Fengcheng. By the way, when these outsiders from Anhui went to Fengcheng, were they welcome? And the answer is yes, they were welcome. And I've always, both the tea master and I have a special feeling about Fun Ching because we were welcome. The indigenous peoples there, the local peoples there, very welcoming, very friendly, just a really nice pace of life when you go to Fun Ching. They're focused when it comes to the tea, but they're really, really open and friendly as a community. Love going there. All right, enough of the prelude. Let's go ahead and have the tea master demonstrate how to brew it insouciant. So it is with great pleasure that I'm able to introduce the numinous tea master to brew insouciant with you.
Yes. It's Yunnan Hong Cha. Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy July 4th. It's past, but not happy. Okay, happy Saturday. We do Hong Cha. This is from Yunnan. This is the apple pear. So 7 grams each. So standard. So 2. Yeah, this is the 4 cups.
So she's going to make 2 cups in one setting. So you would only really need 2 cups in this strainer for yours. But you notice when she has 4 cups, she can go through the whole process more quickly of dissipating the steam, aerating the water. And that's one of the reasons that she does this way. The other thing you're going to notice is that there's lots of grammage. For 7 grams, you're going to see it's an enormous amount of tea, but it's what's necessary to get the ideal flavor for this. She's making sure that hot water, and you can use anything between 170 and 212. Make sure that all the cups are heated, not only heated, but make sure that there's no soap stains or anything left on those cups to interfere with the flavor.
What is the brewing temperature for today?
Brewing temperature is 170. Even though I wrote to you in the email 175, I realize even now as I'm talking to you that I wrote that. And so it's good that you're all alert and captured the fact that the understudy, as usual, made an error and you caught it. Congratulations. Okay, so Tea Master is drawing the 175 water, which she will aerate and cool down to 170.
Two minutes.
Yes, and this is a 2-minute steeping. Oh, yes. Should be doing
Question
so.
about that. So the instruction said 311.
Huh?
Is it not 311?
It's not 311. It's 211. Oops. Another error. Full of errors. From that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this was another error on my part. Gosh, I'm a little worried now. I'm making all of these errors. Wonder if something's happening to me. All right.
Not enough tea, I suspect.
That's the correct response. Tea Master's aerating the water, heating the cups. Okay. And she's taking the 7 grams. Put it in the cup. And shake the cups. Distribute the heat. Turns out I can smell this thing all the way from here. Smells good, by the way. Then the tea master is going to put the water that she's already aerated back into the kettle because it's got a nice pouring spout and start the process. You notice how she pours on the side almost underneath? This is important because you can get 3 full steepings from this. You follow this technique. Okay. So this thing is beautiful. They got these, yeah, oh, the arga. Yeah. You, this thing is really beautiful. You got all these leaves on the top. And just 1 or 2 that have flowed down to the bottom. And the other thing you're going to notice about this when it's your turn to brew is right away, the aroma of this is huge. And so in general, and I know if you take your notes out about erudition last week, you will not have noted that there was a huge aroma right from the get-go. So right away, we sense a difference between this and erudition. And also the size of these leaves, and these are all buds, by the way. The size of these buds is enormous. And so that's another thing that you would be struck by. And it indicates the enormity of buds in Fanchi, or the ancient trees. They're all enormous. Okay, tea master separates tea leaves from the tea liquid. We'll wait for this other one to come in 20 seconds. Again, you notice the economy of movement, not wasted movement as tea master goes through this. Okay. All right. So let's enter the quality arena. So the first thing I note right away is, oh my God, these smell very distinctive right away. And I noticed that even before smelling it just now. Take a look. Nice color, nice and gold. And let's enter the quality arena. Remembering this is 170 degrees, so we'll be able to take a larger sip. Remember, what we're attempting to do is to figure out where in the mouth you're getting reaction, and then what the aftertaste is, And then what the energetics are. Energetics are pretty simple. Energetics are really about how you're feeling as you drink the tea. I'm not in a hurry. And by the way, you've gotten your notes out from erudition because this is so far away from erudition. You'll immediately detect lots of differences. Okay, I'm getting a sense of where the astringency is. Oh yeah, getting an aftertaste. I actually think I'm already getting some energetics. I'm gonna take a second sip here. I'm gonna focus on aroma and also taste. Ah, all right, it's your turn to go ahead and brew. And Tea Master will go ahead and brew with you. And while you're getting yourselves ready, remember to set your timer for 2 minutes. Yeah, okay. And remember that we're aiming for 170 degrees. Make sure you've got 2 cups on your tableau. Oops. Oh, that's you. Okay. Okay. Tea Master has 3 cups. That's to speed up the aeration process. You can have 2. It's your problem.
In the pictures you sent, is one of the people who's shown one of the farmers you work with?
Yes, one of those is one of the farmers. And one of those pictures you see, it's in a production facility where they actually press the tea. They don't press this tea into cakes, but I wanted to show you, whoops, that farm because they actually do press leaves there, not the buds. You don't so often get buds pressed into cakes, although occasionally that happens as well. It certainly can happen, and we've got the silver needle cake here that's pressed. So it can happen. And in that picture, you see that they're using concrete rounds to actually press the tea. Aerating the water. And about to put the leaves in. And yours is in package number 2, 7 grams.
Shaking.
Sure the leaves are heated. We're going to use the kettle to pour from. You pour on the sides to try and get under. You can get 3 great steeps this way. Okay, and you set your timer for 2 minutes. All right. So remembering that the process for this is 6 steps. Pick, wither, you then roll. It used to be in the old days you hand rolled. These days they actually have a machine that rolls. You pile it, and here's where the greatest variation from farm to farm is, and that's how high you pile it. Some farmers 6 inches, some farmers 8 inches, some farmers almost a foot. And it gives you a different result. And it also, when you are doing this piling, you make sure you do it in a temperature controlled room. And you control the temperature to control the speed of oxidation. Because after you've rolled, you've completely bruised the tea leaves. And remember here, unlike Isla Mountains, so Isla Mountains, we remember when we do red tea, they typically, especially if it's ancient tree, they oxidize to about 80 to 84%. That's not standard for red tea in the industry. Closer to standard is this, where they oxidize around 90, 91, 92%. And each particular varietal helps tell the story of where they should stop. If you over oxidize, you get sour. That's an ugly 4-letter word in Chinese tea making. So that's the one thing they have to prevent against. Your timer went off and you're separating the tea leaves from your tea. And you're noticing some things right away. So the very first thing you should be noticing is that there's big aroma. There's huge aroma. So you can think about that. Think about that in relationship to erudition. You also again notice the size. Remember how fine and delicate, relatively speaking, erudition was? This is not fine and delicate. This is huge. So enter the quality arena, looking for where in the mouth you get a reaction. Think about aftertaste, and there is one with this. And think about energetics. I've gotten the energetics already. And it's big for me. Remembering all of you, because you're all genomically different, are going to get a little bit different energetics, and that's okay. So I went through the oxidation process. What's left to do after you've oxidized? You got to reduce the moisture in the leaf, because the leaf has way too much moisture. You got to get it down to between 3 and 5% moisture in the leaf. Otherwise, when you pack it away, the leaf will mold. You don't want that. So farmers are very meticulous about all of these steps, because tea is a crop by reputation. So in other words, the best of the farmers, everybody knows them. That is, among the tea literati, the tea lovers, the aficionados, they all know who the best farmers are. And that's because year after year, the farmers produce a great product. Does that great product mean that 2022 is the same as 2023? Let's see now. This is an agricultural product. The answer to that would be no. But it does mean that whatever the end product is, it's going to be among their peers, the best that there is. So that's one of the advantages of traveling through China, of spending time with numerous farmers. We've done such things as gone to villages and visited every single farmer within the village, just to get some sense of the differences. And by the way, the purposes of farmers are all different. Some farmers, as I told you, really just are using this as a base. Some farmers don't even get to the base. What they do is they pick and they take it to a market, just pick leaves. And then some other farmer or some producer will come along and buy those leaves and produce it or blend it the way they want to. So you have all of these possibilities. But that's not where we play. We play at the level with farmers who year after year are producing a great result.
Here's the first comment Rob shares. I would rename this tea cognitive dissonance because the smell of the warm leaves was chocolate, but then the steeped leaves was mostly malt. But the tea liquor is more like stewed plums.
Huh. This is a great comment. Thank you, Rob. His comment was about the warm leaves, the brewed leaves, and then the liquor. So the warm leaves start you off with a chocolatiness. The brewed leaves get you that maltiness. And then the tea liquor, stewed plums. Love this comment. And he says, you know, the naming conventions around here sometimes are a little suspect. He said this should have been named cognitive dissonance. I don't disagree. Yes.
Judy gets a full front of the mouth astringency.
Ah, this is interesting. Jeannie has a full front of the mouth astringency. I get astringency and a lot of it. Mine is mid-mouth. It's really interesting. Great comment. So while you're continuing to taste and think about this, the farmers, some because of economic circumstances, produce a product that's less successful than other farmers. What do I mean by that? You can kind of tell gradations in the equipment. You can certainly tell gradations in the working space. And so all of these things, just like here, make a difference. And the farmers that we consistently go back to are the ones that year after year show consistency at every stage of production. And here, it's interesting, I'm talking about this in a way that I talk differently with erudition, because erudition is usually, those type of teas usually go to a full-on processing plant. Not so many of them are done on the home farm, because the processing plant has experts that can do the full 15 steps. Here, this is so relatively straightforward, and there isn't the habit of aggregating into big plants in this particular area, that it's farm after farm you go to. And it's just a different vibe. And part of that has to do, I think, not only with the more simple techniques, but I also think, and by simple, that sounds like it's easy. I don't really mean easy by that. It's not as many steps. They're doing things on a more gross, they're satisfied with a more gross scale, but each step that they take is still very detailed.
Another comment from Jonathan, viscosity like velvet, sweet like honey. And as it washes from the tongue, I'm left with a fresh, cool, easy mouthfeel, yearning for another sip.
Oh, this is a great comment. Thank you, Jonathan. Let's start with the result. A fresh mouthfeel that leaves him yearning for the next sip. In other words, this is an easy drinking tea. He used one of my favorite words, sweetness. Sweetness in the tea liquor. And this thing is exceedingly sweet. What was the opening part of that?
Viscosity.
Oh,
like
viscosity.
velvet.
That's right. Love that portion of this comment. Viscosity like velvet. So it coats your mouth. And indeed, it does coat your mouth. And this is one where you've got this contradiction. The contradiction is you got your mouth coated, so you know that there's great flavor. But it slows you down from drinking this so fast as if it's juice. So you got this push and pull all going on at one time. Good identification.
Rob says, I think this might go well with oatmeal raisin cookies.
Ah, so Rob has a pairing, oatmeal raisin cookies with this. I don't disagree. I think it would go very well with that.
That sounds like a healthy breakfast. Oatmeal raisin, I mean, it's oatmeal after all, and then a mug of this tea.
And there you go, a healthy breakfast. This is a suggestion to change the Kellogg's Raisin Bran with oatmeal raisin cookies and a mug of this tea. This would satisfy all the nutritional needs. The point here that's coming across in these comments is that this is easy to drink. And it's identifiable pretty quickly. The other thing about this is that there is so much sweetness in this, which, you know, you think of erudition, and erudition had a lot of flavor. It just didn't have this level of sweetness. This is very, very characteristic of Feng Qing. Feng Qing in general has big levels of sweetness. It can also have big levels, just as Rob mentioned in the opening, of chocolate aroma. And without question, this has both.
Ah, another comment, light and full-bodied, question mark, another contradiction.
Light and full-bodied, another contradiction. This is very true. It is full-bodied, and yet, you know, it's this viscous leave in your mouth, but then you want to drink more right away. So that's that light and heavy all at the same time. It's this sense, this is a tea for me personally, that if I'm not in tasting mode, I would consume this very quickly because, and I'd be happily consuming this very quickly because it's that type of tea. It appeals at least to my palate in a way that makes me feel, oh yeah, oh, that was really good. Let me have the next sip. Oh, let me have the next sip. And these aren't small, tiny sips I would be taking. I would be taking full sips. Okay, I think we are going to end a little early today, which is fine. I love the fact that you have gotten into this tea and have identified the maltiness, the chocolate aroma, the sweetness, the viscosity, all of these things combine to make this a really, really interesting, but prototypical Dinhu or Yunnan Red. Yes.
One more comment and then a question. The additional comment is smooth and soothing for energetics. And then the question is, when you decide not to buy from a rural farmer, like the story you mentioned, is that a delicate process or a normal transactional one?
Okay, two things. The comment, smooth and soothing. Love this comment because this is a comfort tea. And if you had somebody who came over and they said, oh, gosh, yeah, I'll have some tea. I don't do tea that often. Pull this out because this is a type of tea that people who don't do tea too often, especially Americans, would end up by and large liking a lot. And then wondering to themselves, why aren't I doing tea more often? This is really good. So then this was followed up by a question. It's a great question. So the questioner says, when you go into a business situation, like I described, where the official was not interested in making changes, do you act like a prototypical American and lose your temper and create a scene? Or do you use delicate diplomatic ways to deal with the situation? So as it turns out, the tea master insists that I be diplomatic, and we are diplomatic. And in all seriousness, the questioner is really asking, is this a difficult thing? You know, I think maybe 20 years ago, when we were first starting into this process, maybe it was difficult at that time. But these days, after all this experience, it's not difficult at all, because the way and this was an official, by the way, and the way we talk about things is we use tea terminology all the way through. And when we talk about suggestions, we talk about our market here in America. And so the tea farmer understands that, yeah, you gotta be to market. And our market expects certain things. So we're not blunderers saying, well, give me this and give me that. No, that's not how we behave. Instead, when we're making a suggestion, and by the way, they're only suggestions, and we ask, is there a possibility, because our market emphasizes a little bit more sweetness, an American palate is a little bit more sweet, is there an opportunity to make an adjustment as you go through the process? It's as simple as that. And if the farmers, as this farmer said, he didn't say no, by the way. He said, you know, these days I'm really interested in this electric generation, using water resources. I'm really focused there. So we didn't have this direct, well, can you do this? No, I can't. Or yes, I can. We didn't have that. Instead, we hinted at things, and the farmer hinted at other things. And these answers for us, especially when you use them in Chinese, are really, really clear. And so we hear these things, okay, this person isn't interested in doing that. And we're not unhappy. And we leave praising the farmer. Gosh, you know, your stuff is really good, and we'll go back and evaluate. And these things are all true. But in our hearts, we understand where the farmer's focus is. And we also understand that the product doesn't meet our market needs here. Remember, these are Sophie's boards. If we put something up, an imposter up on the board, or a weak sister on the board, I think all of you would immediately detect that and be whispering to yourselves, maybe he's too old. Maybe he doesn't have it anymore. But you know, the tea master always has it, so that would never be the case. Point being is that we use a language that both parties culturally understand. And we live within Chinese culture when we're having these types of exchanges. We don't, I leave the Americanness back here when I go to China. And the language itself, it's really interesting. If you don't understand Chinese and if you don't speak Chinese, trying to have these type of discussions would be hard, because trying to do it through a translator, you know, you'd invariably say things that would create purpose things that would move things at cross purposes. But when you're within the language, you're using expressions that have a lot of not hidden, but meanings underneath what the words actually directly said. So that's why we're able to go through and have these conversations actually relatively quickly and painlessly. I can't really remember the last time we've ever had a really painful or awkward conversation in China. I'd say in the very early days when we were annoyed that nobody believed that we were really looking for tea at this level, we may have said something blunt, particularly me, I may have said something blunt, which I would never say today. But that was a moment of desperation, remember, because, you know, we've gone this certain amount of time, nobody's paying attention to us. It's like, okay, you mean I need to pull out the big guns? All right. But ever since that time, it's been easy. Also, our reputation precedes us. So when we go places, everybody knows we're serious in the tea business. And there is nothing about us that is flaky or troublesome. They all know we love tea. Before every new farmer, when we met that 85-year-old who had lineage of 12 generations this year, we were introduced, surprised. We didn't know we were going to be introduced. He welcomed us with open arms because he was told these guys have been in the tea business for a long time and they spend money where money should be spent. They are not afraid to go after quality. And so right away, and we established ourselves right away because we talked about the greatness of his family persevering over the centuries. And in addition to that, we talked about technical changes that we understood might have been made in the processing. So right away, we developed a rapport. Right away, there was common language. And I think that that's what makes us so different when we go shopping for tea in China. We develop common language right away. So great question. I'm glad you asked that question because I know that other buyers, particularly if they don't speak Chinese, or they're agents and not really the tea purveyors themselves, may have those type of conversations, which are difficult. We don't have those type of conversations, although I admit in the very, very beginning, it was a little bit harder. All right. Thank you for all those great questions. These are very interesting questions, and they make us reflect on this journey. This has been a great journey, and we continue on this journey, and we hope to be continue on this journey for a long time. So with your support, we will do that. You have a responsibility this week, and that is to stay healthy and be ready for next week. Next week, we're going to do autumn colors, another fun tea from Yunnan. It'll be different from this. It'll be different from Erudition. You guys be healthy. We'll see you next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.